It is no surprise that in the genre of anime, the hairstyle has become one of the most iconic features of a character, and understanding how to draw hairstyles in different ways can be a really essential aspect in terms of defining the character in a very particular way. With that being said, hey guys, my name is Matt. Welcome to another video by artincontext.org where we explore various art-related topics, and in today's tutorial we will be breaking down how to draw anime hair, looking at both a male and female character. So with that being said, let's get into it. Now we're going to need some basic materials, and in this case we'll be working with some fundamental ideas on how to construct anime hairstyles. So let's work with some simple tools like pencils, maybe ballpoint pen, a ruler, any sort of very simple drawing tool is okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at drawing both different types of hairstyles on a female and a male character, and we're going to see how different types of hairstyles can really change the type of character. So it's really important to understand how to construct the hairstyle in a way that makes sense as well in terms of how it sits on the head, and then from there, once you understand these fundamental concepts, you can play around and kind of tweak them to create your own character designs. So with that being said, let's go through a step-by-step guide on how to first draw a girl anime hairstyle. So I think let's look at something a little bit more realistic in terms of hair formation, where we explore the potential of line work to bring emphasis to the structure of the hair. So we want to look at how a character can be enhanced by the addition of a hairstyle which can transform the overall aesthetic of the character. Now the first thing we want to do is we want to start by actually sketching the character. So obviously drawing hair is not necessarily an isolated task within the genre of anime. We want to know what our character will look like and how the hair can kind of work as a contextualizing feature for the overall aesthetic. So we can begin with a simple drawing of the circle and a grid to establish the different features. We can then lightly erase that grid and use the ghost lines of that grid to help us establish features on the face. It's always good to start with the eyes of the character as well as forming the facial structure. And then what we want to do is we want to make sure that we give the eyes some detail. This is because we will be drawing hair with details well, we just want to make sure that other features have details well to maintain a sense of consistency in the character design. We can also start to draw in the nose and the eyes of the character. Remember, with feminine qualities, we want to make sure that the lips have slightly more volume. And this is just a little tip to kind of create a more feminine quality within your character design. So we also want to make sure that the nose is quite subtle and the jawline is sleek and maybe petite in terms of shape. Making sure that our female character has feminine qualities is also going to once again contextualize the hairstyle as a feminine hairstyle. So of course, hairstyles and facial features can obviously be played around with in terms of how they can often be very androgynous, especially in the genre of anime. However, hairstyles tend to be a very contextualizing feature in terms of defining a feminine or masculine quality within your character design. Now the next thing we're going to look at is we're going to look at sketching the hairline of the anime character. So once we have a basic sketch of the character, we can now draw in the hairline. Drawing the hairline allows you to basically establish how the hair will form around the head and facial structure. So we can also add in surrounding features such as the ears, as this will give more context to how the hairline forms on the side of the head. Now the hairline and the ears become a reference point for the drawing in the hair or of the hair. From here we will start to work on lightly sketching the hair structure. So what we want to understand now is kind of sketching the hair of the anime character, and as we're drawing the hair of the character, we can actually start with the fringe. So we always want to draw the hair slightly floating above the scalp, as this will suggest volume and height in the hair. We can also start making general strokes of strands that fall alongside the face. In this case, let us give the character bangs and a ponytail, for instance, by drawing a fringe and hair tied up on each side of the head. So we want to make sure that the hair always extends beyond the scalp, because female hair generally does grow long and voluminous, so we do want to just emphasize this quality of volume and length within the hair. We can also draw in some general directional lines of how the hair will fall alongside the character from her ponytails, and we want to make sure that each segment of hair flows in the direction it is tied up in or falls in. So we can also draw hair that flows from the ponytails and falls on each side of the face. This way we give some length to the tied up hair, but otherwise try to keep the lines quite loose and vague. We don't necessarily need to work in too much detail. And the idea is that we just want to have a generalized sketch in terms of what hairstyle we're looking for. Again, this is a particular example. You can obviously utilize these concepts and rules to create your own hairstyle, but what we want to do now is we want to lightly erase our drawing important because we'll now use these ghost lines to kind of assist us in a more refined drawing process where we really enhance the hair structure on the head. Now we're going to look at refining the face of the anime character as well, so we should have a basic guideline sketch of how the face and hair work together to create a unique character design, and this is where we can start working in some more refined sketching details to emphasize all the features of the anime character. We also want to work on all the features of the face, making sure we build the character up so that the hair does not necessarily look out of place. Again, hair is a contextualizing feature, so we really want to make sure there's a consistency in detailing and shading and so on, and drawing style between hair and actual facial structure. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at refining the hair of the anime character. So this is where we can start to work in some bold lines that give the hair a little bit more of a distinct outline, making it a little bit more animated. We can also start to use ghost lines to assist us in making more refined lines in the correct directions. We can also start to embolden lines in their different sections to create distinctions, such as the outlining of the fringe and the hair at the back of the head that is tied up. So you do want to try to keep outline lines slightly bolder than the lines within each segment. So you can also keep the fringe hair maybe a little more detailed to suggest that it is sitting in the foreground, and the ponytails a little less detailed. This is a great way also to bring more of a realistic quality to the anime hair drawing, depth quality between the long anime hair and the shorter hair. So this is just kind of a little trick to create some depth within your anime hair drawing. Lastly, as an extra bit to bring more texture to the hair, you can work in some lighter shading in the different segments to suggest variety in the layers, and this gives the long anime hair more three-dimensionality and volume, which is good for anime hairstyles that tend to be a little bit more in the realistic representation of hair. But otherwise, that is it, a basic few steps on drawing long anime hair in the context of a female anime character design. Again, obviously anime characters tend to be very androgynous, and understanding some subtle tips and tricks in terms of visual qualities and aesthetics in terms of defining them in a more feminine or masculine category is really important, and understanding how to draw hair in these kinds of ways and how to utilize these tricks can be very helpful for both male and female characters. But otherwise, we're going to look at a little bit more of a masculine approach in terms of representing a hairstyle, and this is where we start to draw more of a male or a boy anime hairstyle. So we'll proceed to do a similar anime hair tutorial where we will look at how to draw a boy anime or male anime character. We will work on a more cartoonish style of drawing hair for this particular style, just to kind of look at two different approaches to drawing anime hairstyles. So the first thing we're going to do once again is we're going to start by sketching the face of the anime character. So again, we want to start by drawing the face of the character, and we can do this so by establishing the shape of the face with grid lines for different features. Again, we want to start with the eyes to center the character's features. Making sure we have a character's face fleshed out will determine what type of hairstyle will suit the character as well. Now take your time on working on the features of the male anime character. Some ways to give more masculine quality to the character is to make the eyes slightly more square and the jawline slightly more squarish as well. Another way to do this is to be a little less emphatic with the lips. This way they seem a little bit more muted, which is more common in terms of a characteristic associated with male or masculine features within the genre of anime. But the next thing we're going to do is we're going to shift directly into sketching the hairline once we already understand how to establish the face from the previous drawing exercise with our female character. We can kind of just move directly into sketching the hairline for our male character. And this is where we play around with how you would like the hairline to fill in on the forehead of the anime character. Now try to imagine what the character would look like maybe with a buzz cut. As a way of determining the hairline, we can also play around with a denser hairline or a receding hairline to establish more age in the characters. So depending on how old or how young, you can really play around with how you emphasize these qualities through their hair as a iconic feature. We can also add in the surrounding features such as the ears to emphasize the hairline and where the hair will fall once drawn in. We can also try to work with a little bit more of a defined jawline. So this way we give more masculine qualities once again to our anime character design. Try to work a little on the features to make sure you are happy with them. Once again, hair is a contextualizing feature, so you always want to make sure there is this consistency in drawing definition and detailing compared to that of the actual facial features. But otherwise, once we are satisfied with the actual drawing of the facial structure, we're going to move on to refining the face of the anime character, and this is where we can slightly erase the features once again of the character to now start working over it with a little bit more refined detailing. Again, working in layers is also just a great way to capture the qualities as best as possible with a little bit more of a refined sketch with each layer as you proceed. And once you have done this, we can then work over the eyes, the nose, the mouth, just to make sure that we are completely satisfied with how the actual facial structure appears. But otherwise, once we have done that, we can actually move into drawing a little bit more of a detailed hair structure within our anime character. And this time we are going to do a little bit more of a cartoonish and vague hair structure on the anime character. This particular anime hair drawing style is quite common and does give the character a little bit of a different aesthetic, a little bit more of a playful and cartoonish type of aesthetic. And we can play around with how we create this type of hair structure. So we can draw this hairstyle by establishing the fringe with a basic zigzag pattern, for instance. Once we have done this, we can start maybe to fill in that pattern to create a little less detailed effect in the hair. What starts to give the hair more definition is the outline of the hair structure and how it sits on the head. So this means we can fill in the entire hair structure and keep adding these jagged edges to create shape in the hair. So this does give the hair texture, but not necessarily too much detailed texture. So this is where we can play around with how the hair sits around the head and how messy or how neat the hair can appear, and by how many jagged edges we can add to the hairstyle can create that quality of texture. So this is a great way of giving an anime character a hairstyle without too much line work, and it becomes a little bit more animated once again and cartoonish with a little less realistic effect in terms of line work, but can work really well with specific anime styles. And lastly, as a last resort, to give it a little bit more shape, you can also add in some highlights, which becomes a very essential aspect in creating definition in the hair while still creating or maintaining that very vague cartoonish effect. And this can be a great addition to anime hairstyles that is super simple and more shape dependent than detail dependent. So this way of drawing anime hairstyles is really fun because it's so simple, so easy. You can easily tweak and change it to have different styles to suit your character in various ways. This way of drawing anime hairstyles can work really well as a way of also emphasizing other features of the character. And this particular way of drawing hair is also much easier if you are interested in creating an animated anime character where his hair gets disheveled or her hair gets disheveled quite often and like kind of falls in various parts and shapes and has various structures, but still maintains a iconic quality in terms of a generalized shape. But otherwise, guys, these are two main ways of how to approach anime hair drawing: one on the more realistic representation of hair, and one that kind of looks at a more generalized and cartoon and stylized way of representing hair within an anime character. But otherwise, guys, drawing different anime hairstyles are going to have different effects on the character as well. That's important to remember. Some key things to think about is first establish the shape of the head and the character and the face. Again, hair is a contextualizing feature, so you want to make sure there's consistency between your actual character and their hairstyle. Work out the features of the character and make sure you have established the hairline before you start drawing the hair. You also want to make sure that there is volume between the scalp and the head. You don't want to draw hair that sits directly on the head, and this is to suggest a volume in the hair because naturally hair does grow up, and this is a quality you do want to maintain to have an accurate kind of representation of how the hair actually sits on the head. And then lastly, consider how the hair actually affects the character. Do they suit a buzz cut? Are you going for something a little bit more bold? Are you going for something a little bit more meek and subtle? That's really up to you. But otherwise, guys, these are some fundamental ways of how to approach drawing anime hair. If you did like this video, please let us know in the comment section below if you are interested in similar or related topics. We are looking to cover a bunch of anime topics, so do please let us know which type of topics you are interested in. And you can also show us some love by liking and subscribing. That helps us to grow the channel, which ultimately enables us to make more art related content for you guys. But otherwise, that is it from me today. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, cheers.